she learned silence early. Not because no one spoke to her, but because speaking never seemed to help. In her childhood home, peace mattered more than truth. Her mother avoided conflict like a fragile object that could shatter at the slightest touch. Her father preferred calm smiles over difficult conversations. Whenever voices rose, doors closed. Whenever emotions appeared, they were quietly dismissed. So she adapted. She became the girl who nodded, who said it's okay, even when it wasn't. The one who swallowed words before they reached her mouth. Silence, she learned, kept things stable. Silence kept people close. As she grew older, that habit followed her everywhere. In friendships, she listened more than she spoke. In relationships, she adjusted more than she asked. She told herself she was patient, understanding, easy to love. Deep down, she believed that her needs were simply less important than harmony. There were moments when she felt something tightened in her chest, when a sentence formed clearly in her mind, but just before it escaped her lips, doubt stepped in. Is this worth it? Will this cause problems? And just like that, the moment passed. People praised her for being calm, for never causing drama. They called her strong, mature, balanced. No one noticed how tired she was of holding everything inside. Over time, silence stopped feeling like a choice. It became a reflex. Automatic. Invisible. She didn't yet realize that every unspoken word was quietly shaping her life, teaching her to disappear little by little. And she certainly didn't know that one day, silence would no longer protect her, it would hurt her. The pain never arrived all at once. It came in small moments, easy to ignore. A joke that went a little too far, a comment that dismissed her feelings, a decision made without asking her opinion. Each time, she felt a brief sting, like a paper cut sharp, then quickly hidden. She told herself she was being sensitive, that it wasn't intentional, that people didn't mean harm. So she smiled, nodded, and moved on. At work, her ideas were often overlooked, then repeated by someone else and praised. She noticed it, but said nothing. In her relationship, plans changed without discussion. She adjusted. In conversations, she was interrupted, talked over, forgotten. She waited patiently for space that never came. None of these moments seemed serious enough to address, but together, they formed something heavier, a quiet accumulation of hurt. At night, when the world finally slowed down, she replayed conversations in her mind. She imagined what she could have said. The words sounded clear and strong in her thoughts, but powerless now that the moment had passed. Sometimes she felt angry with herself. Other times, she felt ashamed for even feeling hurt. Other people have it worse, she reminded herself. I should be grateful. Yet her body told a different story. Tight shoulders, shallow breaths, a constant exhaustion that sleep didn't fix. Something inside her was asking to be heard, and she kept pressing it down. What scared her most was how normal this all felt. The wounds were invisible, easy for others to miss and easy for her to minimize. But silence, she was slowly learning, doesn't erase pain. It stores it. She wasn't silent because she had nothing to say. She was silent because she was afraid. Afraid of being misunderstood. Afraid of being labeled difficult. Afraid that once she spoke, she wouldn't be able to control the outcome. Words, once released, couldn't be taken back. She had seen what happened when people spoke up. Tension filled the room. Faces changed. Relationships shifted. Silence, at least, felt predictable. There was also the fear of being wrong. What if she exaggerated? What if her feelings weren't valid enough? She questioned herself constantly, measuring her emotions against an invisible standard she could never meet. Most of all, she feared loss. She believed that speaking her truth might cost her love, approval, connection. And so she convinced herself that staying quiet was an act of kindness, that she was protecting others, that she was being selfless. But deep inside, another truth waited. Every time she stayed silent, she felt a small betrayal of herself. She noticed how her voice softened when she finally spoke, how her sentences turned into apologies even when she had done nothing wrong. Sorry, but maybe I'm wrong. But Her words arrived already shrinking, already asking permission. Still, she told herself she was fine. That this was just who she was. She didn't yet see that fear was guiding her choices. That silence wasn't PCT, was avoidance. And avoidance, she was about to learn, always demands a price. The day silence turned into pain didn't look dramatic from the outside. It was an ordinary day, filled with ordinary conversations. But something shifted inside her. A boundary was crossed again. This time, it lingered. She felt it in her chest, heavy and warm, refusing to fade. She tried to ignore it, but her body wouldn't cooperate. Her thoughts raced. Her breathing felt shallow. That night, sleep didn't come as if. Days passed, and the feeling stayed. She grew quieter, more distant. People noticed, but misread it as stress or tiredness. She didn't correct them. The pain began to show up physically. Headaches, tight muscles, a constant tension she carried everywhere. She realized that holding everything inside required more energy than she had left. One evening, she stood alone in the kitchen, staring at nothing. Suddenly, tears filled her eyes, not from sadness alone, but from frustration, from the weight of everything she had never said. For the first time, she asked herself a dangerous question. What if silence is hurting me more than speaking ever could? The thought scared her. It challenged everything she believed about herself, but it also felt honest. She began to understand that silence had protected her once, but it was no longer doing that. It was slowly erasing her presence, her voice, her sense of worth, and once she saw that truth, she couldn't unsee it. The opportunity came unexpectedly. A conversation paused. A space opened. For once, no one interrupted her. No one rushed to fill the silence. Her heart started racing. This was it. She felt the words rise, clear and ready. She knew exactly what she wanted to say. Her hands trembled slightly as she inhaled, and then doubt returned. What if this changes everything? What if they don't understand? The silence stretched. Someone shifted in their seat. The moment narrowed, fragile and brief. She smiled instead. Never mind, she said softly. The conversation moved on, unaware of what had almost happened. Later, regret hit her hard. The words she had held back echoed loudly now, sharper than before. She felt angry not at anyone else, but at herself. She had been so close. That night, she realized something painful. Waiting for the perfect moment meant waiting forever. The fear hadn't disappeared, but now frustration stood beside it, growing stronger. Something inside her was changing. The breaking point didn't announce itself. It arrived quietly, disguised as another small moment, another dismissal, another assumption made without her. But this time, something snapped. She felt it instantly, a sharp clarity cutting through the fear. Her chest tightened, not with anxiety, but with resolve. She understood, all at once, that staying silent meant continuing to disappear. That choosing peace over truth had cost her too much already. Tears came, but they weren't weak. They were honest. She thought of every moment she had swallowed her voice, every time she had made herself smaller, and for the first time, she allowed herself to feel the anger beneath it all. Not explosive anger, but steady, grounded, undeniable. She whispered to herself, I can't do this anymore. The realization was terrifying and freeing. She didn't know exactly how she would speak or what would happen after, but she knew one thing clearly. Silence was no longer an option. When she finally spoke, it wasn't loud, but it was firm. Her voice trembled at first, but she didn't apologize. She didn't soften her words. She said what she meant, clearly and honestly. The room changed. Some people looked surprised, others uncomfortable. A few truly listened. Her heart pounded, but she kept going. For the first time, she felt present in her own life. When she finished, silence followed, but this silence felt different. It wasn't suffocating. It was real. She realized something important then. Speaking up didn't make her cruel or dramatic. It made her visible. And visibility, she discovered, was powerful. Not everything improved overnight. Some relationships shifted. A few grew distant. Others grew stronger. She mourned what was lost, but she didn't regret what she said. There was relief in honesty, lightness in no longer carrying everything alone. She began setting small boundaries, saying no without explanation, expressing discomfort before it turned into pain. Each time, her confidence grew. She was learning that truth doesn't destroy the right relationships, it reveals them. She still felt fear sometimes, but it no longer controlled her. She spoke when something mattered. She honored her feelings. She allowed herself to take up space. Silence was no longer her identity. She understood now that her voice had always been there, waiting for permission she never needed. And this time, she chose herself. She no longer stayed silent.